8-year anniversary. For me, it was a no-brainer to want to spend time with my sweetie and less time ranting in the bonnet. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles, though. I'm your host, Kalari GXC. I am going to get the word out because I think I confused a few people earlier because I was talking about why I took Tuesday off, and it did seem like I was going to take tonight off, but no, I am back for tonight. I am still not sure about Sundays though. I know that some people do tune in to my Sundays and Salona D&D stuff with the guys, but until my friend is in the clear and says that he's feeling better, that's touch and go for our static group. One of our long-term members caught COVID, and my concern is him getting healthy. I honestly, video games can wait. I've lost way too many friends and family to it, and even boosted is still no guarantee because of the long effects. So until he gets the go ahead to be all right, we may not be grouping up for a bit. So Sunday streams are going to be touch and go, and these Bonnet Chronicles should still be on Tuesdays and Fridays each week unless something comes up. Now, we are still in the process of packing up this place to move into our house upstate. And there's just so much going on. But I wanted to do this tonight because there's a lot of weird misinformation going on. And welcome to the chat, Beans. I hope you can hear me tonight. I wanted to make sure the mic was working. But yeah, I didn't want people to be confused because I did kind of come across earlier in the week like I wasn't going to be on all week, and I just wanted to take Tuesday off because it was our 8-year anniversary, and I just needed a bit of a break. But I definitely was coming back tonight to talk about stuff because there's a lot of nonsense going on, and I wanted to touch upon a lot of it. But I definitely wanted to, and thank you. It was nice. We had a good dinner. We just chilled, watched TV together. We had a nice over 40, just wanting to be happy and chill anniversary. It was perfect, especially since both of us are introverted. It wasn't loud, it wasn't in our face. It was just him and I enjoying the night. And I honestly wish more people understood the power of just having that disconnect time. It's nothing against the internet because I swear I've made some of my closest relationships online, and I'm going to get to that a bit deeper later on, especially with talking about Spoutable this week. But I do feel like for my mental health, it's good to have time away to disconnect, decompress, and just recharge. Because honestly, there's some bullshit that goes on the internet. But I'm going to start off with a positive note. I've seen this on Spoutable, and then I followed up with my news digging, and it's true. In the special election, Representative Justin Jones and Jason Pierson, two young men who are Tennessee lawmakers, whose only crime was protesting after that horrific school shooting where several young kids lost their lives. They weren't saying anything that most of America was saying at the time. We need to protect our kids. We need to make it about our kids being able to go to school safety. And their jobs as lawmakers are to do whatever they can to see that happen. And the Tennessee legislator decided to both censure and literally tried to take their seats from them. Well, both young men in the specialized election won their seats back. Because you can try to get in the way of progress. You can try to roadblock it, to block it with racist tropes. But eventually, we're just going to keep moving on past you. There was no reason for the Tennessee legislator body to censure these young men. They weren't saying anything harmful unless you're in the pockets of the gun lobby. They weren't saying anything that the parents of these slain children and the caregiver that died and the teacher that lost their lives were saying that we need to put our lives ahead of gun ownership. But we still live in a country and a society that coddles arrogance and ignorance over facts. And I'm loving that in spite of the antics of some of the Tennessee legislators. The will of the people have spoken. These young men won special elections to get their seats back. And Tennessee needs to listen up because they're our future. They are the ones that are going to make things better for kids whether they're going to school, whether they're grown-ups in their districts. We need legislators that care and that see us. And we need a Congress that doesn't allow for these shitty racist antics that hold us back. So I'm hoping that these wins continue on. And we need to bring these wins into 2024. Because, like this says, tonight's topic is how we can avoid distraction topics in this ever-growing climate. One of the distraction topics happens to be this man, and I wish I could make the picture bigger, but for some reason sizing for certain aspects of my show isn't where it needs to be. But it's big enough for you to notice that that's A.G. Merrick Garland. Why do I bring up A.G. Garland? Well, because his name has constantly been all over social media's mouth. Why? Because a former sitting president just got indicted yet again on national election tampering, potential espionage, stealing of state secrets, and plenty of other things. His special appointed counsel, Jack Smith, has been doing his job going after the people who are connected to and the man who has done the most dirty themselves, Donald Trump. But if you listen to the keyboard heroes and warriors and all of the internet wannabe legal eagles, you get people who blame A.G. Garland for it's not going fast enough. We should have been indicted him. How come this isn't like the TV show Law and Order? Why aren't we perp walking Trump yet? And it's like, maybe it's because I did study criminal justice briefly, because I thought I wanted a career in it until I started taking the classes, and I realized it wasn't for me, because A, justice is not fast, and to get methodical justice, you kind of, even though I'm a sociopath, have to be even worse sometimes, and I just didn't have it in me. But that was criminal justice. And I knew everything I studied, everything that I followed, that it is not a fast process. And unlike other cases that have precedents, a former sitting president has never been indicted. And it's not saying that historically speaking, there haven't been presidents that should have. Looking at you, Nixon. Looking at even FDR, who literally put Japanese Americans in internment camps. Was turning a blind eye to experiments on fellow human citizens. He might go down as one of the better presidents in history, but his hands are dirty. Most presidents' hands are dirty. That's just the reality of being in charge of a complex nation. But we don't have any legal proceedings against former presidents. But we never had a president so odious with their blatant disregard to the rules of law, to what a president should be doing, than we had in Donald Trump. He has thumbed his nose at every protocol. Literally had state secrets in his freaking Mar-a-Lago dump. Probably traded stuff to people that shouldn't have those secrets for money, because he owes Deutsche Bank billions of dollars. What troubles me are the keyboard warriors that go, well, A.G. Garland isn't doing stuff fast enough. He's not doing stuff enough. And I ask those people, what do you think a national AG does? Do you think they're like a cop? Do you think they go around arresting people? AG is in charge of multiple state jurisdictions. I don't know about you all, but I pretty much stayed following the news this year. We've had several, and I mean several, high-profile crimes that have been broken wide open, including finding out who potentially is the Long Island serial killer. That awful thing that happened in Idaho. plenty of stuff that happened before A.G. Garland took office, including the January 6th thing, that all of you seem to think was under his jurisdiction when he wasn't even appointed until well after it happened. But even so, the head of the DOJ does not do anything but appoint and oversee. And I can't believe I have to tell grown people that. But like I said, most of you get your information from Hollywood. You don't want to bother to understand what the job entails. Even Sessions, and he was definitely not my favorite part of the Trump fiasco, realized that when he was national AG, that he could not personally involve himself in certain things. He recused himself, and as such, because the big man baby wanted to use the DOJ as his personal attack dogs, lost his job. The guy that he appointed after wasn't going to play ball either. I don't view these men as heroes, even though if you look at A.G. Garland's record and everything he's done, including taking down the Oklahoma City bomber, taking down several domestic terrorists. He was so good that he was literally up for a Supreme Court nomination, which Mitch McConnell blocked. This man does not play by anybody's rules but the rule of law. So when you blame him for the indictments not going fast enough, when you don't understand the legal process, when you don't understand what an AG does, especially the head of the DOJ, you just tell all of us who have to suffer with your insufferable opinions that you don't want to bother to learn what people do. You just want to be right on the internet. And welcome to the chat, Fluffy. And yeah, you're early. Welcome to the chat. And welcome to the chat, Beans, if I didn't say it earlier. I think what bothers me about attacking A.G. Garland is he seemed like a low-hanging punching bag. And even people who were supposedly on our side, looking at you, Joy, I'm not going to let this go because she was Little Miss put his face on a milk carton, which I did not appreciate. Because even back then, it felt like, why are you doing this? You know it's not A.G. Garland's direct job, and it would be seen as a conflict of interest, and that our president, who, need I remind you, cannot convict anybody either, had their hands in this. The AG must be a neutral party and follow the rules of law. That's why they appoint special counsels to do the job in the jurisdiction needed. But you have these people, these internet cowboys, as I like to call them, and cowgirls, and I guess whatevers, that love to stress how this isn't fast enough for them. And okay, Miss Microwave Generation, it's not going to happen in 48 hours. There's a lot to unpack. And the DOJ that you claim aren't doing anything fast enough has over, I think the last count was 212 actual indictments and several convictions. I think they're up to 170 actual convictions with jail time for January 6th offenders. They are still after several people that they've identified but could not find or are still trying to identify. Because need I remind you that the attack on our Capitol happened, and that there are a lot of agencies working together to bring them down. And this week alone, we had a former sitting president, a literal voice actor, and I think some schmuck YouTuber, maybe, all facing charges for their role in what happened January 6, 2021. They are getting people. And just because some of you think it's not fast enough doesn't mean it's not happening. What bothers me, especially when we lead up to next year, is how many people will sit there and complain about certain things not happening fast enough for them when this is not a circus. Real lives will be affected by whatever happens. And I want the right thing, which would be Donald Trump facing actual charges for what he's done to this nation and beyond. But the reality is, we still have a system that unfairly leans for those with wealth and social status over actual justice. And if you want that to change, we have to be more invested and understand how this stuff works. Too many people, even people who followed me this week on Spoutable, was going on about, well, I don't agree with you, 10. It didn't go fast enough. Why did it take 3 years? I'm sure they just got the paperwork back last year. And sure, even though everything's on film, they still have to get a justice that isn't in the pockets of Trump or the GOP so that we can make these charges stick. And sure, I don't even understand the legal process, 10, but I still think it's not fast enough. And I just want to sprout my opinion. These are the same cats that'll tell me in the same breath that any pragmatic criticism of the Democrats hurts the party. But they can't see how attacking A.G. Garland, which they know is a neutral enough entity, could potentially hurt things. I wonder why one is so much easier to get away with than the other. You're not fooling anybody. These are the same people that thought that one dude, I forget his name because there were so many AGs. They all fade from stuff. But they had that one dude that they thought Mueller was going to save us. The one guy that literally freaking tanked the 2016 election to try to sell a book and it didn't work. His know-nothing stuff. We have to stop making rock stars out of people who just want to be actual civil servants. Merrick Garland didn't come into this to be famous. He doesn't even like giving press conferences. He just wants to do his job. And what bothers me are the people that want a fucking sideshow. There are plenty of things to get your drama fixed. Politics isn't it. But if you need to have stable politics, if that's what you claim to care about, we need actual personal investment without these game playing. Because it's very infuriating to me at this point that they keep attacking this man's character. It feels like it's coordinated and that he's a punching bag on purpose, and I want it to stop. I'm not a A.G. Garland fangirl. I don't know the man besides his work, and I'm a fan of the job he's done over the years. I think it's unsung, which a lot of hardworking people often go unsung. But what bothers me are the people that attack him unfoundedly without even knowing what his job entails. And you need to really just stop disrespecting this man. Just say you don't know and you're just frustrated with the situation that Trump is not in jail. And that there is a slight chance he might not see jail time at all. I am metering my hope with the realization that he could get off. Because we have never convicted and arrested a sitting, living former president or even the current president. It's just never been done. But we are a land of first. And I can be hopeful that people find everything he's done egregious enough for him to pay. There is always hope that we finally start to get it right and we start showing people that there's no income threshold, no skin tone, no social status that makes them above the law. But that's on us. It's on us to elect people. It's on us to meter out the noise. And for our community especially, this doofus has been on a lot of people's topics. And this picture, copyright some newspaper, is of Ice Cube when he was complaining in an article about how he lost $9 million because he just didn't trust that COVID vaccine. Now, I don't know if since then Ice Cube has changed his tune. I don't know. Him and a few other black artists have been really sketchy about getting their boosters. That's one of the reasons why, even though I'm 3-time boosted, I still stay the heck away from people. As I open, I let you know that I might not be on Sundays for a bit because one of my dear friends caught COVID when him and his wife came visiting family in the States. And now our group is compromised until he feels better. Because this nonsense is not going away. So when I see Ice Cube already, after losing family and friends to this stuff, I get a little bit upset because he's wealthy enough to know better. But it doesn't matter. And now you've got RFK, the right, which he was always kind of shaky when it came to shit because of the way he buttered up to Trump, of all people, talking about, I got a platinum plan for black people. I don't even really talk to black people, but I got a platinum plan. And who am I going to talk that platinum plan with? The man that doesn't even want black people in his cabinet or around him. I can't make Ice Cube make sense. And I don't hate him. He came from nothing. He built up wealth, and he did what a lot of successful black men do. He said, fuck you, I got mine. And because of that, go ahead. You have yours. But when people start saying things like you're a civil rights icon, I'm going to go, no. That's where we pump the brakes, because I'm not going to Ice fucking Cube for any civil rights advice. It's like, we in our community, we have problems. I'm not going to act like we don't. I was watching this TikTok earlier. Apparently this weirdo redneck and some Canadian guy wrote this awful rap song about being patriots. And of course, people stitched in, which is another reason why I can't be on TikTok, because I get nothing else done. I'd be arguing with racist yahoos all day, and I already said once I left Twitter, I'm not going to call it its other name, I'm done with that. I need peace. But this young man, I'm going to call him a young man, he's probably my age, got on TikTok in his stitches said, I don't vote. I'm not a part of that system. And was proud of it. Now I get it, because there was a whole other bunch of brothers who stitched in about how they voted for Biden to get rid of Trump. And I went on a tangent. Because like everybody else in 2020, 2018 and 2019, during the Democratic debates, we had a smorgasbord of people a lot of us were backing. There were some for the weirdo side people like Yang and Woo Woo Wilma. Don't act like we didn't see you. You tried to jump into our mentions talking about how we needed to give your candidates a chance. Wasn't going to happen. There were even some for Toenail Tosi arguing with us. Every group had a factor. And I was 100% honest when I said originally President Biden wasn't even in my top 3. Because I felt like there were enough Dems running on that stage that had my attention. But the one person that did, he made his VP and he sealed the deal for me. Not just because he picked Kamala Harris, though. I think people need to understand that the amount of stress the 4 years before President Biden took over, the amount of sorrow a lot of us felt at losing family members and people close to us to COVID, the amount of I can't sleep at night because I don't know what's going to fucking happen next energy that man brought every day, I needed stability. So when President Biden won the primary and beat out all the others and then picked VP Harris as his choice, it was a no-brainer for me. And if that wasn't for you, that's fine too. My goal is to make people politically invested. It is not to tell people how to vote. But it was troubling watching so many TikToks where people took a swipe at President Biden, and it was black men doing it yet again. Y'all love being contrarian. Y'all love complaining about the system, or like that young brother saying, I'm not a part of the system, so I'm going to argue about why what the stupid Canadian and racist white guy with the bad rap said. And I had to stop the video because after he said that, my brain goes, I don't care what you say. I might even agree with the point you're trying to make against the racists. But the moment you said that you don't vote because you don't want to be a part of the system, what are you doing? Like, I don't get black men especially who don't understand that you can't change shit by doing nothing. You're not protesting anything by withholding your vote. And you're not helping your community when you don't do your basic civic duty. It takes a little personalized investment now. Most states have some way, if you cannot stand in line to cast your ballot, because I know, living in the South, how much of a pain in the ass that was. How long the lines were. How much shenanigans got up. That's why I was grateful when I was able to move back up north and not have to deal so much with that. And now I'm in a state where absentee ballots, especially when you're disabled, which I qualify for, are a thing. There are ways to make sure that your voice and your vote is heard. And any excuse about not wanting to be in the system makes you sound like this doofus. And if you're like him and think, I can't be a part of the system, yet I want to be a voice for black people, you're not going to be listened to. The road to our progress is through pragmatism. You don't like the way the system is, fine. It's not a perfect system. But if we want a system that works for all of us, that protects and preserves democracy, that allows citizens to live safely and securely, then we have to elect people that not only sees our rights as sovereign, but sees our humanity as that as well. And we get that by electing them. We don't get that by staying home and stewing and being contrarian to saying, I'm not a part of the system. I'm pro-black. Because no. You will never convince me that you are for our people when you do nothing for our people. If you're like this dude who doesn't even want to get a fucking shot that could potentially keep his people from getting sick. If you can't even cast a ballot for somebody that will do right by your community. All it takes is a little personal investment. And nowadays, if you're lucky like me and get to vote from home, you have sites like Ballotpedia. You have the internet where you can look up candidates, look up what's being legally legislated, and make things happen. And just because I'm living in a state currently with a Democratic governor, I have a district with a Democratic rep and a Democratic senator, does not mean I can get comfortable. Because like I said, I am moving upstate soon. And I don't know if y'all understand how upstate works in a lot of states. It was eye-opening when I lived in New York too. You get used to the city where there's every ethnicity, every culture, and your whole block can be like a multi-patterned color of different cultures living together. And then you go upstate where it's more wooded and rural, and you don't see many ethnicities, and you really stand out. And some people are accepting because, hey, it's a tourist and I can be nice to them. And some people look at you like you don't belong. It is messy. And I am about to move upstate in a state that I didn't grow up in, but I really do feel like I can call Michigan my permanent home now. But when I say I am literally moving to a town where I could probably count on my fingers how many black people I've seen in the few times I've been up there, and it does give me pause. I'm lucky that the place we are going to live in is a bit more remote. It touches me in a way for internet, well, not even internet, introvert feels, because it is perfect for us. Like, we won't have to worry about being bothered out there unless we want to be. We can grow stuff out there. It's a nice patch of land that his grandfather bought for that purpose. And instead of letting it languish or just be sold to somebody who won't appreciate it, we got it. So it's a good thing. But I can't say that I'm not nervous going from where I'm at, which already technically was rural enough, to some place that's even more, less people of me. But it's not going to stop me from voting. It's not going to stop me from being vocal. It's not going to stop me from trying to make things better for everybody around me, because that's what we have to do. It's not where I live, it's how I continue to carry myself. And we have got to stop elevating wannabe icons like this. Liars who, they got theirs. They don't do shit for the community no more. And if you say that to them, well, but back in the day you didn't have. All you could do was rap about how bad things were. And granted, it did shed some social commentary light on things. But what have you done since you became famous? Besides ingratiate yourself with people who will protect your money over protecting your people. That's why I don't fuck with certain people. I'm not anti-success. I wish men like Ice Cube and everybody who worked hard to get theirs nothing but success. But when you elevate somebody who hasn't done the civil rights work, to the platform of civil rights because he's willing to be your Negro? No, I'm not okay with that. He wouldn't talk with Kamala Harris, who extended the invite to him more than once. She is literally the VP of the United States. You have an open path to dialogue, but you wouldn't go. Because why? Because she's a female? Because she's not black enough to you? He made every freaking excuse to why he would not meet up with the vice president of the United States. Yet he met with fucking Donald Trump and got us nothing and nowhere. I'm tired of the games. It ain't about hating where they've made it. I want more of us to make it. I am okay with black success. I am not okay with people being aligned with something as serious as civil rights when they don't have the chops for that. And you will never convince me. Flavor Flav is more of a civil rights icon than Ice Cube. He walked away from Public Enemy when Homeboy was being a little bit too chummy with Bernie Sanders' weird shit. And Flavor Flav was like, look, no, I'm sorry, Chuck D. I just don't. This man is using us, and I don't want our music used for this. This is not what we stand for. He got accused of being anti-Semitic, but he never attacked Bernie Sanders' heritage. He never even said anything about Bernie Sanders being Jewish. He just did not like the man's politics and policies and did not think that he was for black people, which has been proven over and over again. But because Chuck D was willing to be that Negro, it didn't matter. And you look at guys like Killer Mike. Southern politics is already fucked up. And I say that as somebody who's lived in both Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina over the years. Beautiful states, amazing people, but shitty ass politics. And I have a brother, man, who lives in Georgia, who knows the fucking struggle of Georgians, who knows that Georgia mothers especially still get out in line to vote. They don't care how hot it is. They don't care how long the lines are. And what does Killer Mike do? I'm going to back GOP stuff. I'm going to back Kemp over Abrams. I'm going to go for anybody that isn't for our actual people. Because it's all about protecting my pockets and how much I've made. It isn't about helping lift all of us up. And like I said, I ain't gonna shit on their fame. They want to drop a new album or star in a TV show or a movie, more power to them. But I ain't getting my political advice from some fucking rapper. That's just not happening in this day and age. Because all of these people who were probably raised to know better don't know any better. And they are the reason why fools like that guy on TikTok can say stuff like, I don't vote. I'm not messing with the system. It's infuriating. And come next year, we have to vote around people like this. We have to vote in spite of the brothers who just stay home and complain about everything. And when you ask them, okay, who represents you? Man, I don't think about that. I don't have to vote. I don't have to do any of that because I don't want to be a part of the system. The system don't work for me anyway. Well, you know, if you vote and get somebody in that actually, I don't want to think about that. I don't have time. You don't have time, but you have time to complain. You complain about the gas prices, about the inflation, but you don't want to elect legislators that can regulate these companies that gouge us in these things. You don't want to think about ways this could help your community, but you want to complain. And that's the problem. It's a distraction, and we don't need that. My ballot is set for 2024. I am riding with Biden. I feel like there are way too many game players. And like I said, I get it. I didn't turn off that TikTok compilation after the umpteenth brother was like, I forced myself to vote for Biden. I just wanted to get rid of Trump. Any excuse they tell themselves because they have swilled so much contrarian and anti-government Kool-Aid It's been socially conditioned in our society for years that certain demographics and certain genders can distance themselves from their civic responsibility because we should be an anti-government in their eyes. It's fucking messy. And then for those of us who take our civic duty seriously because we know it's about harm reduction, it's infuriating. And and no problem, Fluffy. I hope you have a good night. What's infuriating about their arrogance and attitude is how conditioned they are. Because when you tell them that this attitude of, I had to hold my nose to do my civic duty, and I was just trying to get rid of Trump. I mean, it should be a no-brainer to vote for the better candidate, but it should also be a no-brainer that it shouldn't just be the president. You should know who your representatives are on state and local level, because statewide, some of y'all state ain't looking where it needs to be, and it's getting worse. And the whole idea, well, there's nothing that can be done. There's too much money in it. You know that could be legislated too. Too many people, you don't want to think, and it's been crafted that way. I wrote a thread on Spoutable, and I have my, let me get this doofus's picture off of here, because for real, he makes me mad. And there's Professor Kyle's thing. He was making a really good point earlier about Republicans being duped by Trump, which is, I'm going to break that down, the bullshit of that social conditioning too, because there was no duping. There was just people who were used to being awful and bigoted that want no, they don't want to take accountability. And it plays into the thread that I made. And, you know, I'm going to self-promote a little bit because I wrote this so I wouldn't forget the points I wanted to make tonight. And point blank, I talk about how social conditioning to me are like two kids. On one corner, you have this kid that is constantly whipped, beaten, dehumanized, just verbally and societally abused, to the point where we will do anything, whether it's shrink ourselves, whether it is try to appease the person harming us, or do stuff to get away from them, harm reduction methods, because that has been our world since its inception. Just pain and misery and exploitation. And then on the other end, you have a kid that is constantly told what they're doing is fine. Pat on the head. You're the standard. Here's a cupcake. Oh, you cussed us out? Oh, you are acting up? It's not your fault. You've got mental health issues. You're fine. That positive reinforcement, no matter how awful they are. They might be able to look across and see how the other child is being abused and mistreated. And they might even have a little side of themselves that says, that doesn't seem fair. But it's not me. I'm getting head pats in the cupcake. I don't have to take blame for any wrong I or others who look like me do. Maybe that kid should be more like me because this is great. That societal entitlement has socially conditioned white people for so long that some of you don't even know how to let it go. Even when you see the wrong, even when you could see that child of color or that LGBTQ child, that child of a faith that isn't like yours, that is being harmed, and that just needs you to join with them for harm reduction so that we can all move to better. It's hard to let go of that entitlement. And even worse yet, the few of you that do, that really take the measured steps to say, I don't care how fun it is to not get in trouble or not be blamed societal wise. This shit ain't fair. I want to be a better person. I need to step up and speak out. You also lose so much social currency that it's almost not worth it because you're going to people who already don't trust your demographic. And I understand that. It's hard. I don't trust a lot of white people, especially after the last few years. It's hard for me, and I'm on a case-by-case basis now because of it. Even with a partner who is white. So I understand that it's hard for you when you have given up your comfort zone to try and open your eyes to the reality of that child that has been harmed by societal's negative reinforcement. But what you've got to understand is that you're not doing it for head pats. See, that's the insidiousness of the societal positive reinforcement of negative and toxic behaviors. It is so insidious that even when you're doing the right thing, you may be in it for the wrong reasons. You should realize that anti-racism is life work. It is not for stickers. It's not for head pats. Most people aren't going to know that you were doing the right thing except for you and maybe those close to you if you happen to be lucky to date a person of color, especially a black woman. I don't mind head patting you, Axiom. I love you. But I do feel like there are a few people that get into anti-racism because it will make you popular depending on how you look. I don't fit the bill and I don't care. I've made it clear that I put myself out there because I'm not ashamed. Everything that you see here is stuff I did to myself, years of trauma. I don't hide. I don't need filter. There are plenty of pretty people online if you need a prettier package to tell you how things are. But for those of you who want the real, who want somebody who's unafraid to be their unapologetic self, here I am. I think it's refreshing to see a real face give their opinions on serious topics. But what's been bothering me of late is the whole lean, especially on Spoutable, since it is a new and really refreshing way to interact on social media. I've even said it myself. I go on Spoutable and I'm not instantly in fight mode like I used to be on Twitter. I don't feel like this is boring to me like other social media sites were. I actually get distracted, and it's bad because I'm trying to write a second novel. So it is a bit of a distraction. I have to pull away several times during the day. But on the flip side, I've seen a lot of, I'm going to say white people, because they didn't seem like people of color, using the same sentiment that, oh, we shouldn't have to click and see a bunch of politics. I don't think we should talk about politics so much. That's why I got away from the other place. I don't want a society that doesn't talk politics. Politics should be a part of who you are. You don't have to love it. You don't have to be a fan of it. But you have to be personally invested so that we are not harmed by it. So many of you show the negative effects of positive reinforcement. You have the luxury of saying, I don't have to think about it. Because no matter who's in charge, I won't be directly harmed yet. So that politics talk makes me upset. I don't want to have it in my face so much. People are making points that hurt my feelings, and it must be nice to have a society that puts your feelings over actual facts. The rest of us live in the real world. We heard early on in our lives that the world don't revolve around us, that life isn't fair, and that we have to do whatever we can because other people can't seem to help us to reduce the harm to us. We've tried to have our own neighborhoods, our own thriving cities. Y'all would come in, burn them down, call them riots, drop bombs, literal bombs on neighborhoods because you thought black cults were going to take over, as what happened in '85 in Philly. Anytime we have tried to civically organize and do something to be pro-Black America, it has been met with hostility, anger, and literal violence. Y'all labeled BLM, which was just saying Black Lives Matter, not only Black Lives Matter, but Black lives need to be a little bit more important because we were literally watching people get snuffed out left and right by the people who were supposed to protect and serve us too. And what does Trump do when he's in office? Oh, I think this is a terrorist organization. And Muslim Americans, since 2001, have lived a fine line of whoever's in charge may turn everybody I know against me. I have to deal with hate crimes at our mosque. People looking at me like I'm a terrorist. People accusing my sheikh brothers and sisters who aren't even Muslims of being terrorists because y'all dumbass racists don't even know the fucking difference. The crimes against Jewish people and the rise of anti-Semitism in every single group has been coordinated as well. And it's infuriating because there is a social conditioning of that one child that gets the positive head pats no matter how hateful, and bigoted their rhetoric is. And we have got to stop that. We have got to hold people accountable when they do this stuff. And we have got to stop worrying about their feelings and the feelings of other people who are afraid they're going to get caught next. It's on us. There's a reason why the child in my other example, because I broke this thread down, has trust issues. And it's because even those of you who are trying your best to do good, sometimes you'll stumble, step in